standing in the wake of this train wreck. My heart is beating faster in my chest. This depression terrifies me. When I'm awake, it's like these thoughts, they paralyze me. I don't wanna feel like this. I don't wanna feel like this. Time stops, weightless and cold. Silence burns like fire while my fears unfold. There's panic. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air. Life feels unfair without you. Come back to me. Don't leave me to dream about you. Dream about you. Dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? Without you. What is left to say when the sky falls? I'm staring at your ghost in the stars. There's not a day that I don't miss you. The feeling swelling overflow. It's like I see you, hear you. I don't wanna feel like this. Why do I still feel like this? Heart ripped out of my brain. I sit here talking to myself. I think I'm going insane. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air. Life feels unfair without you. Come back to me. Don't leave me to dream about you. Dream about you. Dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? The only way to fix this, the only way to fix this pain inside. The only way to fix this is a deep breath in as you say
I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Bit me with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the panty?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters? Good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everyone out there. Thank you for joining us today on 52/1993, a conversation show about movies from the year 1993. We're talking about important movies from this year. We discuss them by weekend releases. It doesn't matter if they're good, they're bad. It doesn't matter if they're ugly. And usually I'll have a host. As you can see, my lovely host has joined me early for this. So we'll have them. We'll talk about things with them. We've got several. The format that we're doing is a little bit different than what we're used to. But we have some like categories that we'll go through that kind of keeps everything short and nice and concise. And I really like the way that we're doing it now. So I'll go ahead and just introduce my guest host for the week. You've seen her before on the Sandlot podcast, but now she's doing Sleepless in Seattle with me. It's Alyssa. Say hi.
Hello.
Great. You nailed it. But you've never seen this movie, right? That we're going to.
This was the first time I've seen this movie.
Perfect. And I think she requested this one with a couple others later in the year. But yeah, she wanted to see this movie, and she's done a lot of research coming up to this, including watching a movie with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks in it. Not to spoil any of the stuff that you have for the later things, but let's go ahead and I'll start talking. I'll go through my spiel, and then we'll get into the good stuff where we can both talk and talk about more of this. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So this week's movie is called Sleepless in Seattle. It came out on June 25th, 1993. It is directed by Nora Ephron, written by Nora Ephron, David S. Ward, and Jeff Arch. And the cast includes Tom Hanks as Sam, Meg Ryan as Annie, Bill Pullman as Walter, Ross Malinger as Jonah, Rosie O'Donnell as Becky, Rob Reiner is Jay, and then there's some other supporting cast members. I just want to acknowledge people that we've talked about or seen in other things before. Gabby Hoffman, Victor Garber, Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife, is in this, playing his sister. David Hyde Pierce, Dana Ivey, and Frances Conroy are just a few names out that are in this movie of note. And synopsis for this movie: after the death of his wife, Sam Baldwin moves to Seattle with his son, Jonah. When Jonah calls into a talk radio program to find a new wife for his father, Sam grudgingly gets on the line to discuss his feelings. Annie Reed, a reporter in Baltimore, hears Sam speak and falls for him, even though she is engaged. Unsure where it will lead, she writes Sam a letter asking him to meet her at the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day. Pretty good synopsis, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has a budget of $21 million. Shockingly low budget here for a movie. I mean, it doesn't really have anything fancy in it. No dinosaurs or explosions to speak of. But this is the fifth biggest movie of 1993. The box office exploded for this one. It was $227 or $227.8 million. So fifth biggest movie of the year. And the Rotten Tomatoes score for this is a 75%. IMDb coming in a little bit lower, 6.8 out of 10. And just to give you a couple reviews, Roger Ebert said Sleepless in Seattle is ephemeral. I can't even say. As a talk show, as contrived as The Late Show, and yet so warm and gentle, I smiled the whole way through. You guys get the point. I can't read. Gave it 3 out of 4 stars. And then another review, I believe this, I don't remember if this is a Washington Post or something else, but mostly Sleepless in Seattle leaves you feeling restless in the audience. That's a negative review from Richard Schickel, or we can call him Dick Schickel, which is a great name for him. The legacy of this, there are a couple things here. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Original Screenplay and Original Song. Neither one won. It was also adapted into a musical, which I've not heard any of the music or seen any praise or anybody like this thing. So, but I think that would be the second movie that we've covered this year that's been turned into a musical. The first one being Groundhog Day. So they like their romantic comedy musicals. And then also AFI, the American Film Institute, ranks this as a top 10 romantic comedy of all time, coming in at number 10. So that is my spiel for Sleepless in Seattle. Now we're going to talk about it and go through some of these categories. But before I do that, I just want to ask you what your kind of initial reaction to everything, or to watching this, especially since it's the first time that you've seen this movie. And I know, like, you said you felt like you watched this out of order in a previous conversation, but go through that and just tell me a little bit about what you thought.
Yes. So overall, I thought it was very cute. I love a romantic comedy. I love a romance, a comedy. Put them together. It's fantastic. I watched You've Got Mail first, and this was just because it was on my watch list. I wanted to see it, and I liked You've Got Mail better. So maybe it was because it was newer, or I thought the plot was a little more fleshed out, or maybe I enjoyed the plot a little bit more. And it's really hard when both the leads are the exact same. Like, I wouldn't be comparing them if it wasn't the exact same two leads. I kind of wish I had seen Sleepless in Seattle first, or without the shadow of You've Got Mail, because maybe I'd have a clearer or more pure view of the movie. I did think it was cute. I did enjoy it. I did not enjoy it as much as You've Got Mail.
Okay. I like it. A little bit of controversy coming in hot there. I don't know. I feel like
we have differing opinions on
we
this movie.
we definitely have differing opinions on this movie, and that's okay. There's something very special about both movies. I think they're very different in their characters. Maybe, and I don't want to cut Meg Ryan off by any means by saying she's playing kind of a very similar character, whereas I think Tom Hanks's character is a little bit different in those two movies, in my opinion.
I still think both. I think Meg Ryan character is more similar than Tom Hanks's characters, but the differentiation is very small. I think Tom Hanks is very similar in both roles.
He's very.
Meg Ryan's also kind of typecasted as a general life statement. So
I agree.
Being the female lead in a romantic comedy is kind of the same role in the 80s and 90s. So that makes sense.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, I agree with you. I think surprisingly, when I watched it this time, I did feel like maybe I'm watching it through a 2023 lens now, but like I feel like Tom Hanks and in both movies is super misogynistic and like but I still find him very endearing, whereas some people might, and it's classic. But some of the times he's talking with his friend, I was just like, I laughed, but I was like, ooh, this would have to change a little bit. Some of the conversation anyway. But cool. Let's go ahead and break into some of our categories and see if we have any kind of differing opinions right off the bat or anything. But first, let's talk about the 4 or 5 scenes in this movie that really make the movie. I cheated a little bit with mine. Basically, just these are the best scenes in the movie that if you were watching this and you were passing by, you would stop and watch this scene specifically. Or if you were describing this movie to somebody, you'd be like, oh, that scene where you're doing this. So that's kind of what we're looking for here. So I had 5, and like I said, I cheated a little bit. How many did you come up with?
I honestly had a hard time breaking it down. So you go first, and then
okay.
I'll talk about
that works. So the first one I had is the first the call-in scene. Even though, the call-in scene where Jonah, who is Tom Hanks' son in this, he calls into this talk show that's in this radio talk show, if you remember those. For anybody out there that ever listened to talk radio before, he calls in this talk show and basically is telling this stranger and millions of people that are listening that his dad is sad and because his mom passed away, and he just really wants his dad to be happy again. He wants a new mom. So I really like this scene a lot, and I think it's one of the better parts of Tom Hanks, and I could be, overdoing it with Tom Hanks in this movie, but I really love this scene and uh, found it very impactful, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the first one I kind of picked out. What do you have any thoughts on this scene?
I did. This was the whole opening. I kind of, again, I was having a hard time. It's kind of like in my head, it's like pre the phone call, post the phone call, and like post the letter.
Mhm.
Post no, opening the letter. And but like the opening line of the movie, Tom Hanks is like mommy got sick. And it's just like that is like the vibe of the entire first portion. And it's so heartbreaking when she, like, first of all, screw that psychologist lady on the phone. She is very nosy. But when she starts to ask him questions, he almost kind of melts into it, and it's like he can just effortlessly talk about his wife, and it's like a tug on the heartstring moment.
Yeah, I love this, and there's some good lines in here. One about Sam talking about his wife and how great she was and everything. But I love when when Jonah hands him the phone. He's like, "She's a doctor," and he goes, "Her first name could be Doctor." What's she like? You're just like kind of what you're saying about this psychologist who's very nosy. She's just trying to get listeners and effectively is getting listeners at this point. But you also get introduced to Annie in this scene too. Like, I guess you get introduced to her in the there's a scene before this, like a family get together at Christmas. I think that's what's
Yeah,
happening
she
here.
announced engagement.
But during this time, you get the setup, I think, for this movie with this initial scene. She's listening in her car alone. She turns it off at first, being like, "Oh, what is this schlock stuff?" And then turns it back once the rest of the programming on the radio is not good. But she even walks into a diner at one point, and the people in there, like, this thing is huge. And people are listening to this sad man talk about his dead wife on the radio to hundreds of thousands of people. So there's some really good things in here that really got to me. When Dr. Marcia Fieldstone says, "Tell me what's so special about your wife," and he was like, "How long's your program?" And it's kind of cheesy a little bit, but it's like these simple things of like, I knew it the very first time I touched her, coming home only to no home I'd ever known. I was just taking her hand to help her out of a car, and I knew it was like magic. And Annie says it at the exact same time while he's on the radio, and it's just a really good scene to me, in my opinion.
I agree.
Anything else that you pull from this scene that
No, I guess there's just more background on Annie. Like, I mean, that she introduces her fiance, but she hasn't really felt that spark. It's more of like a convenience kind of thing. She's like, yeah, I love Walter. I love my fiance. But then like it's you when she says magic at the same time that he does through the radio, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a sparks fly moment, even like with a person that she's never seen before. As opposed to her fiance. So it kind of gives her a little background, and I like it.
I love Walter, though.
Walter is one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie.
He's special. We get it. We do. I'm skipping over that scene. I don't know why, but like that's introducing Annie and her fiance Walter, and Walter is allergic to everything. He's like the kid, and I don't know if you've seen My Girl. You don't necessarily have to add it to your list, but it's one of those quintessential 90s movies. But Walter's just like Macaulay Culkin from that movie. He's allergic to everything except bees, because somebody else at the table says bees.
All right.
So
they're having an allergy off.
Yeah. He's basically allergic to everything. So somebody has an opinion in chat. I don't know what they're asking excuse me for. Is it about My Girl? Does she need to watch My Girl? Is that what you're saying?
I know My Girl's sad.
My Girl is sad.
It'll probably get added to the list, but it will be put off for a very long time.
Yeah, it's not like My Girl is the first movie that made me cry. I don't even know if I could think of the Hearst movie that made me cry.
Monster.
Monsters Inc.
Well, there might have been something before that, but I remember having a full blown meltdown at the movie theater and my mom scolding me for it. I was like, it's just so sad. It's like they're never gonna see each other again, and then they are. And she's like, you gotta go. We gotta get back in the car.
I watched, and this has nothing to do with the movie that we're talking about, but Monsters Inc. I also cried in Monsters Inc., but I watched it for the first time in my freshman agriculture class. Yes, I said freshman agriculture class, an FFA class, and I was just crying in the middle of my freshman class for that movie.
Justified.
It is justified. You're right. All right, she'll add it to her list, my girl to her list, and she'll watch it sometime. Let's see here. What do we have next on my list? Sorry, I had a completely different thing shown up here. I actually have notes this time, unlike when Joseph and I did this. All right, this is where I start to cheat. And I basically split these two into two different scenes. I have Rob Reiner. Anytime that Rob Reiner, Jay, and Sam are together, they have like 3 or 4 little scenes where they're together and talking about dating and doing all that. And then I also split Meg Ryan and Rosie O'Donnell, Annie and Becky's scenes as a separate thing together, because I feel like their relationships are good comic relief or comedy. They are the comedy almost in this rom-com.
Fair.
So
it's like, oh, the phone call, the initial phone call scene, and then best friends scenes.
yes, best friend scenes.
We're
That's the best-
categorizing.
Exactly. Because we get with Meg Ryan and Rosie O'Donnell, we've got Rosie O'Donnell that is basically like pushing Meg Ryan to do all these things. Like,
Full enabler.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Wait, I will say, and I'll talk about this probably a little bit later when we talk about like 2023 and stuff, but I love their friendship. I loved, because sometimes like the best friend is not a very fun character, or it's just like a filler character, and I really think they played off of each other very well. And I also think it was very true to female friendships. Like, your best friend can be doing the absolute like batshit craziest thing ever, and you as her best friend are like, go off, queen.
Yes.
And that's what
No.
Rosie O'Donnell did. She's like, you're doing great, you're doing fine, keep going. And it's just like, she's crazy and you're fully allowing it, and I am here for it because it's accurate.
I like Becky. I think Becky is realer than Jay is, but maybe not. I don't know. Jay and Jay and Sam have that typical, like, I feel like male friendship where it's just, hey, let's talk about this, and then let's talk about sex and what are you gonna do when this happens, kind of thing.
The tiramisu.
Oh my god, it's such a good line. No, Becky has this really great line, and I'm trying to find it. I did not. And it's probably not a PC line in 2023, but Becky also has this moment where she's talking about this guy Sam, who she doesn't know. No, Meg Ryan's character has no idea about this guy other than what she heard on the radio. And Becky says he could be a crackhead, a transvestite, a flasher, a junkie, a chainsaw murderer, or someone really sick, someone like my Rick. And I think that's one of the funniest lines. She's just talking about her husband, Rick. Someone really sick, unlike a chainsaw murderer. I love that line.
Yes.
But she also said she loves talking about that guy. Your destiny can be your doom. Look at me and my Rick.
Yeah.
I love those lines.
And there's like a small, like, that's her second marriage, I think.
Yeah.
Like this is her second, and like that's not going well. And it's just like, girl, this is not going great for you, and you're still over here enabling.
I feel like she loves Rick, though.
For sure.
No, but I really do. I think that in those moments between Becky and Annie, because it does start that way, like she's talking about you're crazy for thinking this way, but then seeing how like Annie reacts like more and more to this idea of Sam and who could it be. And it's not so much about Sam could be my one and only. I think it's more about that Walter isn't her one and only.
Sam, or even just the idea of Sam gives her way more energy in life than Walter ever has.
Exactly. And Becky, like, I think Becky does the best friend job better than most best friends in movies, like you said.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
They can help that a woman wrote the show.
Yeah. And like she questions her intentions, and then once she, gets the skinny on everything, she's like, please just do it. Like, you're never gonna do this again. So I thought I was gonna get on here and talk about Jay and Sam's relationship way more, but no, I really do like the Becky and Annie stuff a lot. Rosie O'Donnell's a rock star in the 90s.
She is.
Just kills it. So Jay and Sam, I just to say a little bit about them. It's basically Jay's this guy that he met in his best friend in Seattle when he moved there, because Sam just moved to Seattle just to get away from everything. I feel like he used to live in Chicago, and this is the only guy that he's got, kind of. And Jay's like, get out there, man. It's been like 2 years. You got a date. It's going to pass you by. And they start talking about tiramisu. I have this on one of my favorite quotes, but Jay says tiramisu. Sam says, what is tiramisu? Jay says, you'll find out. Sam says, well, what is it? Jay says, you'll see. Sam says, some woman's going to want me to do it to her, and I'm not going to know what it is. And Jay says, you'll love it. I feel like both men don't know what tiramisu is in this
So
conversation. But their relationship's not as good as the Becky Annie one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think Becky and Annie have more screen time too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Jay's not there very much.
Yeah, he's not in there very much, but he is also, he's an enabler in the way that he just wants this guy to get laid. He just wants Sam to get
out
laid.
His butt for him.
Oh yeah, he
what
does.
A good friend. He's like, is my butt cute? He's like, it's very cute. And he like lifts up his coat and everything in the middle of the sidewalk. And I was like, what a good friend.
That's what women in the 90s are all about. Butts.
Not much has changed.
They just love butts. The next best scene I think I have in this movie is Annie waking up in the middle of the night because Becky calls her, and she goes to listen to the radio because Sam is back on the radio, or Jonah, or no, Sam, or both. Jonah's on the radio. Yeah, Sam never gets back on.
No, Sam starts. That is one of my favorite scenes because this is funny. This is like the quintessential rom-com hijinks moment where she's trying to like hide in her pantry to listen to the radio and also talk to Becky. Yeah, Jonah calls because he's now dating, what was her name? Victoria?
The hoe. A hoe. My dad's been captured by a hoe.
He's very upset about it.
He's very upset about it. And I've never been in a situation like that. I can't imagine. I thought the children actors were very good in this movie. I love Jonah. I thought he was very good.
Fully agree.
He's talking to them. He's talking about the hoe, and I think this is one where I think that Dr. Marsha Fieldstone handles this a little bit better than
I fully agree.
The initial one. She is talking to a child here and is like, hey, your dad's an adult, and these are the things. Like, you can't always be upset about these things. But Walter catching her in the closet with the phone, and she's like, and he's very funny and endearing in this moment too, I think. He has he said Miss Scarlet in the closet with the radio. I like that line.
Walter's a catch.
Walter is a catch. He's got allergies, but he's a catch. But yeah, again, this goes back to the Becky and Annie relationship. Like, Becky knows, and she's like, you got to get on here and listen to this. That's that kid again. You got to listen. And she's looking out for her friend. Mm-hmm. She's a good friend. That's what we want. Be a good friend to your people. Call them and tell them the truth, and enable them, even if it's crazy.
Agree.
In certain circumstances. The only other scene I have listed here I cheated a little bit on this, but it's the entire ending scene where it is Jonah getting on the plane to go to New York, followed by the breakup of Annie and Walter, followed by the Empire State Building scene here. So a lot is happening in this scene.
Yes, that's like the post letter.
Yes, post letter. I really like the way that you said pre-letter or pre-phone call, post-phone call.
Yeah. The
all that
only thing that I would add before that is Annie making her first trip to Seattle. Because that's the first time that Sam gets a glimpse of her.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacts
Two glimpses.
And that impacts the ending.
Yes.
So I would slide that. I mean, it's a ridiculous scene, but I would slide that one in there before the finale.
And this is her stalking scene.
Straight up.
Straight up. The equivalent of just getting on Google and Googling somebody now is exactly what Annie does in that scene. Is goes through some.
Gets a private investigator.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
She's
the
like,
PI.
I need a picture. I need to know what his face looks like. And then she gets a face and she gets an address and she says, I'm gone.
And chases him down all the way to Seattle, lies to her fiance, lies to I guess she could still say she's doing it for a story because she is a reporter and everything, but and I don't is Becky her boss?
I think Becky's her coworker.
Okay.
There's like 4 or 5 coworkers.
Yeah. But yeah, she tracks him down at the same time that Sam is sending Victoria, I think her name's Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria off. Annie comes off of the plane and they lock eyes and it's like this magic moment. And then we don't get anything from that. And then I guess she like tracks him down or goes to the address, I guess his houseboat.
They're like hanging out on the beach and they're hanging out on the water and he lives in a houseboat and she just sees him and almost gets hit by a bus.
Just staring at each other. That's all they do is just stare at each other here.
And she doesn't even talk to him. She's like, that was enough. I need to go home.
Exactly. And she also mistakenly thinks that Rita Wilson is Tom Hanks's the Victoria character, because he embraced her.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's her sister. Wasn't there another guy there? Wasn't Victor Garber's character standing there too, or maybe he wasn't?
Not yet. No, it was
Weird.
just her.
What poor timing they have.
Very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate there. But that also leads to the scene, and I guess I'm just being very bad about this and forgot that scene. But the scene where they're talking about the letter. So it's Tom Hanks, Victor Garber, and Rita Wilson, and they're talking about this letter and how Jonah wants Tom Hanks to go out to New York on Valentine's Day for the Empire State Building. She goes, "Oh, it's a fair to remember." And I really like this because I do think this sums up the Tom Hanks and Rob Reiner relationship and the Becky and Annie relationships and how different they are in thinking these things. And Rita Wilson's character is like, "Oh, it's an affair to remember," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, it's a romantic movie. Cary Grant, they do the exact same thing. And they're like, and she just bawling her eyes out as she tells the story of An Affair to Remember. It's a very good movie. I saw it for the first time this last year. So absolutely go check that out. And then Tom Hanks and Victor Garber's characters making fun of that. Again, this is very misogynistic characters here, but making fun of that and saying that the only movie they cried in was The Dirty Dozen, and then going on this whole act and just being completely stupid here. But that's a fun scene too. All right, but now let's go to the breakup, the Empire State Building scene. How ridiculous is it that 2 children can book a flight and
Jessica, the girl child, I love her so much. And he books like a nice flight. He's like in first class. He's 8 and they just let him on the plane like Welcome to 93.
He has to say he's 12. That way they don't bother him.
I guess.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they'll think if you're too small, they'll ask a lot of questions, kind of thing. Just tell them you're 12. Love that.
They do it. They got it. They figured it out.
It's so ridiculous though. That I mean, 93 travel post 9/11 travel is completely different. Just completely different than
standing at the gate to say goodbye to people.
It's just you can't do any of that anymore. So we've got that ridiculousness. We've got the parents finding out about this, or the parent finding out about this. Oh, and Jessica's parents finding out about this, of course. And then Sam booking it across the country to go get Jonah. He knows exactly where he's going, but how terrifying for a parent to realize that your child is gone and is going to a city full of millions of people. It's very Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
I will say this was a much nicer New York City than what was it?
Last Action Hero?
It's a much nicer New York City.
I guess he just needs to go to 2 places, though. I mean, airport to Empire State Building, where he's going to find his mom. He's going to meet his mom. That's what he tells the guy. I got to meet my mom. And then at the same time that Sam is going overseas, we've got this very nice dinner where Walter is being very sweet to a Meg Ryan.
Truths.
Oh my God, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
To watch her finally come and tell him the truth about everything, and poor Walter just gets dumped.
I loved that. I mean, not loved Walter getting dumped. I loved that scene because I thought Walter was just like chef's kiss, fantastic.
Nobody's gonna handle it that way.
No, she's like, are you okay? And he's like, I will be. And he's just like, she's like, oh, you crazy kid. Like, that's basically his vibe.
You'll find that one.
Like, I don't want to end. He's like, I don't want you to end up with me out of convenience, or like, I don't want to be like the second place trophy, essentially. I can't remember his exact line, but he was like, I'm not a consolation prize, and I'd rather you not be with me than be with me in second place.
I just wanted some vindication for Walter, though.
Walter will find someone.
He'll find somebody equally as allergic
He's a catch.
as him. Doesn't he get her something?
Well, they got a ring.
Oh yeah, the ring. That's what it is. Oh yeah, because they got engaged without a ring.
Yeah, because he resized his mom's ring or whatever. That's so much.
On freaking Valentine's Day.
So much.
She had places to be, I guess. I don't know.
She did. She really did.
Poor Walter. I love him. And then, of course, we get the Empire State Building scene where Sam finally gets to the Empire State Building, finds Jonah alone at the top, and gives them the whole. Doesn't yell at him, which he does earlier in the movie. He actually screams at Jonah a couple times in the movie as a an angry father. But in this moment, it's more of like a relief, and that was good instead of just being crazy mad at this child for doing this. And he indulges him for a second. It's like, she's not here, man, sorry. And then it's that classic I don't know, slapsticky, they just miss each other. They go down the elevator, Meg Ryan comes up, and you're like, oh no.
I literally was like, no.
Is that how it's gonna end? I hope not.
Pretty much.
And then she finds Jonah's bag up there, and as she's getting ready to go back down, she had to do some convincing to go up there in the first place, but nobody's up there for her. And then they come up on the elevator to get Jonah's bag back, and Sam and Annie see each other again, and he's like, it's you. Thank you for reminding me about the scenes where they actually do see each other earlier in the movie. And then they hold hands and go down the elevator together, and she introduces herself to him, and it's very sweet. And then the movie ends. Is there any other scene that we're missing that is like the scenes?
No, I don't think so. I think that's other than the her flight to Seattle, everything I think we covered.
Nice. All right. Let's move into some of our other categories. All right. So the next one I have here is favorite character or scene stealer. Who do you got?
I put 2.
I
And
had 2 as well. I'm such a
it-
cheater.
it was Becky. I actually really liked Becky
Okay.
and Jessica, the child.
Okay. I love this. I love that you.
I will say, like, growing up, I think maybe like my mom wasn't a big Rosie O'Donnell fan. Like my mom's not really into comedy that much.
Mhm.
So she didn't really like Rosie O'Donnell. So I grew up not watching her or like not liking her, like, you know, as a child having your parents' opinion. And now as I've gotten older and I've seen like more her in more things, I'm like, wow, I really love her. Like she's very fun. She's always the comic relief, but she's a good comic relief.
Yes.
And so I liked Becky, and then Jessica made me laugh every single time. Like just her, it was like IDK, my BFF Jill. Like she was
Yes.
just very much. It was very. They were both cute.
I love that. I love your 2 answers. My answers were Jessica and Jay.
We both had Jessica. Jay was great too.
Jessica, oh my gosh, I wish I could remember all of the little acronyms that she had for everything.
At the end, when like her parents are interrogating her, like, "Where's Jonah?" and she's like, "NY," and
NY.
they're like, "No way!" And they're like, "That's a W, you idiot!" It's like New York.
New York. No, Jessica's incredible. I hope big things for her. And then it's funny that you picked Becky and I picked Jay. I just love Rob Reiner in this. The tiramisu lines, the checking out the butt lines, like I love it. He made me laugh. Rob Reiner always makes me laugh. And of course he directed Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal in When Harry Met Sally. So he's kind of familiar with this whole rom-com genre, and he's just a good best friend. Not as good as Becky. You kind of talked me into Becky a lot more.
I maybe it's because I saw a lot of myself in Becky,
Mm-hmm.
or like I said, there was how they wrote female friendship. It was spot on, and I was like, this is fantastic.
Yes. Any Nora Ephron movie or Nancy Meyers movies are going to have this, are going to have that touch on them where it's like, okay, men, please stop writing our parts. We know how to talk to each other, not you. So awesome. I love that. Favorite quote, or if you have a couple quotes that really stick out to you.
Okay, I have one. It's this might be in like, if I have like a list of favorite quotes, this is added to it. I don't even know who said it. It was one of Annie's coworkers, one of her male coworkers, not Becky. And she's like kind of venting to him. She's like, is this crazy? Am I crazy? Like, am I writing this story? This is ridiculous. And he says, hold on, I wrote it. Annie, when you're attracted to someone, it just means that your subconscious is attracted to their subconscious subconsciously. So what we think of as fate is just 2 neuroses knowing that they are a perfect match. And I love that.
That's her brother. That's
her brother?
Yeah, her brother's a psychologist, David Hyde Pierce.
Oh, okay. I I thought it was because she was in an office. I thought it was like a coworker. No, I love that. It's like it's 2 neuroses knowing that they're a perfect match. And it kind of reminded me of like there's like a Dr. Seuss quote that it's like, we're all a little weird and life's a little weird. And when 2 peoples have mutual weirdness, we call it love.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, it reminded me of that quote. It like made my heart so. I like paused it, put on subtitles, rewound it so that I could figure out what the quote was. I
wrote down like 5. I did the tiramisu one because I thought, that was important. I wrote another one between Jay and Sam where he goes, well, this is fate. Jay says, she's divorced. We don't want to redo the cabinets and you need a wife. What do they call it when everything intersects? And Sam goes, the Bermuda Triangle.
I wrote that one down.
Yeah. I love a lot of the interactions between Jonah and Sam. And when they are standing, when they are shaving or brushing their teeth, I love this whole interaction. Jonah says, if you get a new wife, I guess you'll have sex with her, huh? And Sam just looks perplexed at him at first and then goes, yeah, I certainly hope so. And then Jonah says, will she scratch up your back? And Sam says, what? Jonah says, in the movies, women are always scratching up the men's back and screaming and stuff when they're having sex. And Sam says, how do you know this? And Jonah replies with, Jed's got cable. Sam just goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, just not even phased. He's just like, yeah, definitely.
I mean, as a boy, that's how you find out about any of this stuff. You go over to a friend's house who has cable that is either scrambled or you're watching it illegally or however it is. That's just how it is.
My jaw dropped when he's like, you probably have sex with her. I was like,
oh, you probably have sex. I love that. I love this line from Jonah. This one I think is my favorite quote altogether. Thanks for dinner. I've never seen potatoes cooked like that before. It's such a dumb line.
he's so backhanded.
But I've never seen potatoes cooked like that before. What a great line. What else? Do you have any other quotes? I have a couple.
Annie calling her a hoe. I don't have the quote. That moment was very funny. I have one from Jonah that I'm younger and pure, so I'm more in touch with cosmic forces. When he's like explaining to his dad about fate and everything.
That's great. That's so good.
Yeah, I had some in the beginning about like his grief and his wife, which aren't fun. It's easier to get killed by a terrorist than it is to get married over the age of 40. That was said twice.
Is that one that Becky and Jay both say? Or is it two men that say that?
Someone says it to Becky and Annie, like their coworkers. Right. Their coworkers say it to them at lunch, and then in a completely separate context, it was I'm not sure who said it.
Yeah. The only other two that I have is there's no way that we're going on a plane to meet some woman who would be a crazy, sick lunatic. Didn't you see Fatal Attraction? And Jonah says, you wouldn't let me. And Sam says, well, I saw it and it scared the shit out of me. It scared the shit out of every man in America.
Yep.
Which it did. A lot of...
Should I add that to the list?
Fatal Attraction is interesting.
So, yes.
That is an erotic thriller. It is good. The only other line I have here is not a fun line, but it's like a very sweet. I think it's the last line of the movie, and it's Sam, it's nice to meet you. And I love that. I love that line. I think that's a really good ending line.
I wrote in my notes, great ending line.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't write the line. I just wrote like that was a perfect ending.
Yeah. It's so good. You don't see a kiss. You don't see, you have the hand holding, mm-hmm. and then Sam, it's nice to meet you. Oh God, melts my heart. No, Spencer, this is not a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he says, "Ice to meet you." Get out of here with that. All right, next category: biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill. What did you have?
Oh shoot, what did I have? I think is this the same category as the WTF scene?
No,
it's just a separate category.
Yeah.
I think for the laugh, it's her in the pantry with the
That's
phone
a good one.
And her just scrambling. Like that was like I guess a quintessential hijinks of a rom-com. I thought that was the funniest.
I think I chose biggest cry because as I was watching the movie and that initial scene of him on the phone where Sam is talking about Maggie, mm-hmm. that one really got to me. And I was just like, why do people die? Yeah, I was going through it in that moment. All right, what's your most WTF ridiculous moment?
It's Annie standing in the middle of the street staring at Sam. Just like, girl, either get out of the way, move. You did this insane thing. Like, this is a crazy thing to have done. And she just stands there and then she goes, and then I left.
and I left. I put airplane travel as just as a whole on this. That poor that child just living his best life in first class.
Yeah,
and just how different it is now. So,
so different.
okay. What best music moment? What do you got?
I have two.
Okay.
One's like a serious one, and one's a funny one. The
Mhm.
serious one is when they played Somewhere Over the
Ooh,
Rainbow as
great.
soon as he hangs up from that first initial phone call. And that was
Great.
like all in the feels. He's in a dark room, like perfect. The funny one I had is I think they're playing this song that's like clearly like a made for the movie song, and it just sings about making whoopee.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's got Walter in bed, like fixing his humidifier with a tissue up his nose. And I was like, I love this. Like, I love Walter.
Like they just had such a good routine in that moment. Like she was just handing him tissues and handing them the distilled water to put into his
It's like
humidifier.
there's this like sexy song happening in the background, and he's just fixing the humidifier. And I was like, I love this.
Yeah. I put for the best music moment is again, I'm going for the ending sign, but they take the score from Affair to Remember, which you see playing throughout the movie a couple times, but it's that Affair to Remember when they're, they say hi to each other at the top of the Empire State Building. And then as they're walking into the elevator, it goes into that Jimmy Durante song, which I don't know what the name of that Jimmy Durante song is, but I love any Jimmy Durante song there is. Make Someone Happy is he also sings Frosty the Snowman for anybody that doesn't know. He's the guy that sings that. But yeah, it's so important to make someone happy, maybe make just someone happy. It's so good. It's cute. And that's my favorite music.
I didn't
moment.
realize that it was the music from the
Yeah,
movie.
I had to look. And so like I was like, I wonder if that's the score, because this movie really doesn't have a lot of like scoring to it. This is much more of a soundtrack movie than anything, where it has that I'm Making Whoopee song on there, or Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which I think Somewhere Over the Rainbow is in, maybe it's in You've Got Mail too. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But I did specifically because I had seen An Affair to Remember within the last like year from watching this. I was like, I wonder if that's the same song. And it was. I did confirm that it was the same song. So I was like, I really like that whole musical moment there. All right. I'm just going to split this into two categories because they're both fun. But most dateable.
Walter.
I had Meg Ryan, obviously.
Oh, fair. I would pick Meg Ryan over Walter, but
yeah.
I love Walter.
Even though Meg Ryan's kind of crazy in this.
She's a babe.
She is a babe, but
it forgives a lot of sins.
she's really good about making. I have this in another thing. All right, let's do F, Marry, Kill. I'm censoring.
So excited.
I'm censoring F. I've decided. Your choices are Sam, Walter, and Jay.
I'm killing Jay.
Oh, poor Jay.
I'm sorry, Jay. I don't know Jay enough.
Yeah.
I am marrying Walter, hands down, and I am effing Sam. Sam would probably be a good time. I can probably. I mean, he's desperate. Like he's like not desperate, but he's talking about like getting laid in college, and he's like, I'm gonna get laid this weekend, and I'm like, he is going to want to impress me. Walter is financially stable. He has a nice ring. He's a sweetheart. He deserved better. I loved Walter, and I don't care about Jay.
And you don't care about, but yeah, Sam doesn't know about tiramisu though.
That's fair.
He doesn't know about. Oh man, there's a line where you're talking about Sam talking about the girls that he slept with in college, and he's like
7.
7. It was 7. I love when he's like, here's my number's better than this.
It's just ridiculous.
I think I agree with you. I was struggling to find a third person for this one. I was like, Sam and Walter, definitely. Who you picking? But I think I agree with you. Walter is the not damaged goods too.
Right. I also don't. I mean, like, I guess effing comes with marriage, of course, but like, I wouldn't want a one night Walter. You know,
They don't call him One Night Walter. Walter probably allergic to effing. Yeah, he might be.
Probably.
He definitely has a latex allergy. So he's definitely pulling out the lambskin. He's got the skin ones on. I think I agree. I think I agree with you though.
That's
I'm trying to think if there's any equivalent. Yeah, because if I were to do
no,
like
it would be
if
Rita Wilson.
or it would be Victoria. Throw Victoria in there,
Oh,
and I would kill Victoria.
I would kill Victoria. That was a thought I had. I was like, my greatest fear is that my laugh sounds like Victoria's laugh.
It doesn't.
Thank you.
No, Victoria. I don't think Victoria's a bad person
No,
by any means. I just think that she just wasn't right.
no. I mean, they would have if Joe. That was something. I mean, there's a couple things that bothered me, like, but Jonah was just that wasn't who he picked. It wasn't who he wanted.
Right.
But if it was a completely different circumstance where Sam had met Victoria without this whole debacle of the letters and the radio show, I think it would have been fine. He would have ended up with Victoria. It would have been nice. It would have been okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Jonah would have grown up as a serial killer after that.
Quite possibly.
All right. Best performance in the movie.
Part of me wants to give it to the children because I loved them very much. Both of them. Jonah and Jessica were very cute. I thought they did great. I also think Annie. I think Meg Ryan did a great job. I love Meg Ryan. I'm very partial. But because she had to be the combination of crazy and cute and like romantically wonderstruck, that she kind of balanced it well, I thought.
Yeah.
So
No.
I liked it. She wasn't too crazy. She wasn't too romantically thrown over the edge. Like I think she balanced it well.
I had the exact same answer. I thought I love Tom Hanks, but Meg Ryan's given the task of making a likable character, somebody that you're rooting for, out of a very stalkery, creepy situation, and she does it with ease. Like there's no question that I'm rooting for Annie this entire time. Like I don't find her in any way, shape, or form like. I can look back on it and be like, yeah, what she was doing was really weird. But like in the moment, in the movie, no, she delivers. And like, I love Tom Hanks and I think Tom Hanks is incredible. But yeah, Meg Ryan killed it in this movie. Like she's way better in this movie.
We agree way more than I thought we would.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is going to be fun. We'll see if you think this is fun. I wanted to do a 1993 recasting of this or a 2020 and a 2023 recasting of this, and just doing the lead characters only. So basically just Sam and Annie. If we could choose somebody to be Sam and Annie, or if you have other ones that you'd like to recast, we can do that too. But I'm typically just like, who are the main people? So did you have anybody for 1993? I
wouldn't change Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is, can I say my hot take? Is this like an appropriate time?
No, go for it. I love this. Please do.
So I am not Tom Hanks's number one fan. I think he's fine. Specifically, I think post, Forrest Gump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with Tom Hanks post Forrest Gump. Pre Forrest Gump, he's big in my, like he's that 13-year-old child in a grown man's body.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not love his hair. Like the forehead to hair ratio is too much. And I do not think he's attractive. And then he keeps getting these roles where he's like the love interest. And I'm like, why? So I'm not doubt. I also think he does better in movies where he is the main guy, like a Forrest Gump, a Castaway. Like, but when he's like the side character, he has to share the spotlight. I don't love him.
Yeah.
So not very hot on Tom Hanks. However, I had a very hard time recasting Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that I could think of that worked logically in terms of like age, being a widower, and for the 1993 was Matthew Broderick.
Okay.
I like Matthew Broderick. I think he's adorable. He's also done other romantic comedies. I think he's a good, and I think the thing with Tom Hanks is that he's an everyman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Tom Hanks is good looking enough to be an everyman. I think he's less than an everyman. I think Matthew Broderick can be more of the not the most handsome, not the least handsome, middle of the road everyman. I wanted to put Keanu Reeves in there, but age-wise, it wouldn't have made sense.
Right. He was a little bit too young for this role.
I think Matthew Broderick would make the role a little sweeter, perhaps. Like he does. I don't think he has much of an edge that, like, you know, having an argument with his child or talking about sex with his best friend. Like Matthew Broderick kind of has more of a sweet vibe. But that is the only. I probably wouldn't change it out in 1993. In general, I'd probably just keep the two same. But that was the only. That's my hot take. I don't like Tom Hanks.
No, it's okay. You like Tom Hanks. You like flat top Tom Hanks, not curly hair Tom Hanks.
Yes, I like
and even then you're not like he's a hot guy.
He's fine. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's attractive.
I love me some curly haired Tom Hanks.
Maybe that's why I liked Walter so much.
Maybe. I didn't have a lot for the 1993 one, but I thought this could be interesting. Like a Denzel Washington as Sam.
Ooh,
One thing you don't see Denzel in a lot of is like a rom-com, and I was like, hey, maybe he's around the same age.
He can do both. He can be the widower. He can be the softie. He can be the hard ass kind of like, oh, I'm here for this. Let's go. Let's redo it.
He can joke with his friends and everything. I thought that was a pretty good. And this one, she might be a little young. Like Annie is younger than the Sam character. Sam's about, what did we say, 37? Tom Hanks is about 37
at that time.
And that's kind of what I was basing this on. Annie, I think, is like 20 something. I want to say like late 20s, early 30s at this. And I picked, again, it might be she might be too young for it at this point, but I picked Sandra Bullock.
Oh.
Like, and when you said the thing about Keanu Reeves and everything, I was like, she'll get hers in like 2 years with Speed. But I still think that she is the only one that can kind of compete with Meg Ryan's, I don't know, cuteness, but also like
I think
crazy.
I'm thinking of like Sandra Bullock in The Proposal, where she does have to balance being crazy, being kind of like a jerk, but also people rooting for her. So I think in that respect, I can see that happening.
Proposal, 2 weeks notice, if you've ever seen that. I'm trying to think. Oh, and anything Miss Congeniality. I was like, these characters, I could see her being in there. She's not as like cutesy as I hate saying that about Meg Ryan, but I mean, she'd like
Meg Ryan
owns that
as a treasure.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
She has a vibe.
All right, what's your 2023 recasting?
So, I was trying to think. I think Adam Driver would be my Tom Hanks.
Okay.
Because, of course, I had someone else. Oh, we talked about this. We kind of talked about Chris Pine. He's older. He's done romantic comedies, but I think he's too good looking.
Yeah.
To be this like middle character. I mean, you can rewrite it and recast it in a way that you're like, oh, this guy's a total babe. But like, I think it's too much. I think an Adam Driver is a better Sam. Annie, I also had a hard time with because I was trying to like come up with the modern day equivalent of Meg Ryan, and I couldn't. I picked Emma Stone.
Okay.
Because she's done. I like again. She can be that crazy and cute. I also think that would age her up a little bit. Like she wouldn't be like, or you can age her down, you can age her up. Like it just you would kind of have to rewrite it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like her in romantic comedies. I think she'd be good in that role.
All right, I wrote down a few of these. I'll throw them by you.
Okay.
We'll see what you think of them. The first one that came to my mind, I don't love it for Sam, but he popped into my mind anyway. Miles Teller.
Okay.
As Sam, he's not quite like super. I mean, obviously he has his like he's a hot guy now because he had a mustache and danced shirtless in Top Gun, but like that's fine. Daniel Radcliffe,
Yes.
I think he could pull off the like
Yes.
mournful side of this.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would put Dan Radcliffe in more things as a general statement.
I agree. I agree. I love him.
He is very funny.
Donald Glover, I also thought might be an interesting one.
I love Donald Glover, but I don't think I'd put him in Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah. Penn Badgley. I think he is like Tom Hanks. Like,
yes,
he's not in enough, but
yes,
I think he is Tom Hanks.
in my head. He and like I keep forgetting that he is older now. He's Dan Humphrey in my head forever and always. But I can see it. I'm fine with that.
Okay. I'm really proud of one of these for Annie, and I think you'll like it. But I had Zoe Deutsch.
I don't know.
Which we talked about this past weekend.
I know.
She is Leah.
Like,
she's Leah Thompson's daughter. I think she could be this. She's in a Netflix rom-com called Set It Up, which is really cute. I thought Florence Pugh, but she's probably a little bit too of a good dramatic actor to be in this.
Yes. I just has she been? Well, she's gonna be in a rom-com with Andrew Garfield, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The two of them are in so I'd like to see her in a rom-com as opposed to like a horror, because I don't think I've seen her in drama, I've seen her in scary, I've not seen her in rom-com. So her and Andrew Garfield are going to be in a rom-com, I think at the end of this year, beginning of next year.
So just put them in Sleepless in Seattle too.
Andrew Garfield would be another good one.
Yeah. I think this is the perfect cast for Annie.
Okay.
She's a little young right now. I think she's still young. But Haley Lou Richardson as Annie.
Why do I know her?
She is from season 2 of White Lotus.
Shut up. Okay, I was going to say her. But I was like, no, that would be the Gen Z version of this movie.
I think she is Meg Ryan reincarnate.
She's so I thought of her. I swear to God. I was like, I would love her in this role, but she's too young.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I had against her was like she might be a little too young for
which I don't actually know how old she is.
I don't know. I think she's like 27.
She's probably like the appropriate age, but because we're seeing her as like a college student in White Lotus, then like it's kind of hard to imagine her in a more adult role.
She's 28.
She is 28.
There you go.
So she could do it. I'm here for it.
I've seen her in interviews and everything, and I'm like, she should be the new.
She's cute. You need someone who's cute.
Yeah, you need somebody cute. But somebody in chat said Penn and Emma again, Obs from Easy A.
Oh, I forgot. I always forget that he's the squirrel. Or not the squirrel. Was he? Or they? What's
Woodchuck? Woodchuck Todd. This is a one winner category, and this is I spring this on you, and I told you I was going to do it, but I think this is an award we'll only bring out every so often, but I call it the James Marsden Should Have Been Him Award, and that award goes to Walter for for just getting dumped on, even though he's like literally a great man and deserves the only thing is happiness, much like James Marsden in a lot of movies that he's in, excluding Sex Drive. But we do see him find happiness in Sex Drive as well. So
he does.
So
I agree. Justice for Walter.
Justice for Walter. Hashtag justice for Walter. Let's get it out there. All right. The Did You Know category. This is where we do our fun facts.
I've got nothing.
You got nothing?
I
have 2 really good facts that I like, and one of them is my favorite fact about this whole movie, and that is Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks only share 2 minutes of screen time together. In this entire movie about 2 people falling in love, the 2 main characters only share 2 minutes of screen time together.
Yep. And
the only other thing I wrote down for this was the silhouette of the couple on the box of chocolates that's in the shop window. Annie is like coming out of her house or whatever, and there's the shop next to it, like preparing for Valentine's Day. It is in fact a silhouette of Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. You can really tell, like it's the you can really tell it's them.
Interesting. That is attention to detail.
Yeah, I saw it. This was the first time I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, that looks just like them," and it definitely is. So, all right, my new favorite category for this is movie pairing. And if you could pair this with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
I'm so excited. Okay, so I picked the first. I had two choices. The first is the obvious, which is You've Got Mail.
Hmm.
To do double feature back to back Meg Ryan Tom Hanks movie night. Fantastic. My second pick is the Mary Kate and Ashley blockbuster hit Billboard Dad, which is essentially Sleepless in Seattle told from the children's point of view. The twins, Mary Kate and Ashley, have a widower father, and they want him to get back out there, and they try a couple things, and one of the things they do is they post his picture on a billboard, and they say, "Date my dad," and they get a ton of phone calls and letters and requests, and he's like not having it, and finally he decides to give in. He picks one girl, one letter. She shows up and brings her best friend, just to make sure that everything's kosher. And he starts dating this girl, and they don't like her, but they do like her best friend. So the rest of the movie is trying to get their dad with the best friend of the girl he's dating.
Very nice.
I feel like, and it came out. They came out years later, so I was like, they watched Sleepless in Seattle and went, "How do we make this a children's movie?" And that's it.
And made Billboard Dad. I love it. I love it.
I knew. I was just like, I can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Please don't hate me.
I
sorry,
don't hate you at all. I love that. I didn't know that was the plot of Billboard Dad.
I was watching it and I'm like, this is, again, very sheltered childhood. I was like, this is Billboard Dad.
The movies, I as a movie pairing, I think another obvious one is An Affair to Remember. Watching that back to back with this would be good. I chose two that you could do. One I'm showing on the screen behind me is an old movie called Philadelphia Story, which I think is the greatest romantic comedy of all time. And the reason I chose Philadelphia Story is because of the there is a love triangle in it where there are two obvious people that, shouldn't be together. But then there's this third guy in there that's interesting in there. I just think it's a good romantic comedy pairing. The other movie I picked, which I don't think I would probably put it up there with A Billboard Dad. It doesn't get a lot of love, but I love this movie. It's very near and dear to my heart. It's called Elizabethtown.
Yeah, I know that movie.
And I really like this movie because, well, one, it's got a great message around like grief and family, and especially middle America. It takes place in Kentucky, all this stuff. I love that part of it. But there's this really cute love story in the middle of it between Kirsten Dunst and Orlando Bloom. And there isn't a lot of screen time with them. They spend a lot of time on the phone together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cute. And I think that would be a good movie pairing with that one. So
I agree. I'm here for it.
Have you seen Elizabethtown before?
I have, actually. I saw that
Awesome.
one in theaters.
Nice. I saw it at my college. It was edited. That was the first. They took out all the bad words and references to, I don't know, sex. I don't know. His weird Christian college. All right. So next thing is rewatchability rating. Just because we give something an overall star rating doesn't always mean that it's rewatchable. We could give something a 5 out of 5, and it could be not something we ever want to see again. Or it could be a, somewhat good movie and we watch it over and over and over again just because it's comforting. That I know that we both have our comfort movies. So what did you give it out of 5 for rewatchability?
I gave it, which I'll stick with it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 out of rewatchability because it's a classic. Same. It's top 10 of like all-time rom-coms. It's a very easy watch. Obviously there's the element of grief in the movie, but it's not so heavy that you can put it on in the background and it's okay. But it's also cute and fun. Like if you were scrolling through a TV and you saw it, I would stop on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't watched it much in the last 10 years, 10 or so years or anything. But I remember watching this movie a lot when I was a kid for some reason. And it's not very like kid friendly, but I love this movie. I think it's, like you said, I think it's cute. I think it's very comforting to watch. And I like Tom Hanks. I love Forrest Gump. I love uh, Bachelor Party, which not a lot of people have seen, but he's just great. And I think he's fun. And Meg Ryan, obviously. Come
Mhm.
on. What'd you give it overall?
So I think I've changed my answer since we've talked it out. I originally gave it a 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
I would now give it a 3.5,
Nice.
which is a significant jump in my book.
What jumped? What caused it to jump up for you?
I think just talking about the characters,
Mhm.
like I think just like having a back and forth about it, also finding out we agree a lot more about things made me feel a little more comfortable. I think, and I want to point this out because I justify it, or I was thinking of like, why didn't I like this more? Because I thought
Mhm.
I was gonna love it. So maybe one, my expectation going in. Two, I watched You've Got Mail, and I gave You've Got Mail a 5-star rating. Like
Right.
I loved that movie. So kind of hard to follow that up. I think what you said about them having 2 minutes of screen time together, there is no interaction between them the entire movie. There's no on screen chemistry except for the end scene and briefly in the airport and briefly on the street. There was no build up or even like just having them interact with one another for me to buy into their relationship, I think. So that was kind of hard. I think I wanted more as opposed to them being separate. Like Tom Hanks doesn't even think about her for 99% of the movie other than the 2 times she's in front of his face. She's thinking about him the entire time. So I wish there was more on-screen time together. But
Mhm.
because of the nature of how it's written, can't work.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of why I liked it less.
Yeah. And I think that's really unique, and I think it's cool that
Sure.
they set it up and leave it that way. I get it. I think also kind of what you said earlier about if you would have watched this before you watched
I would have
uh
so much more.
you've got mail. Yeah. You might have liked it a little bit more, or liked that part of it a little bit more that they don't get together. I just think it's kind of a unique thing to this movie that is about romance. There is no romance throughout most of it. So I think that's
True.
kind of
And I loved the
interesting.
ending. I thought the ending was perfect that they just said,
Mhm.
nice to meet you, and they cut it. You don't see them kiss. You don't see them run off into the sunset together. Like, perfect ending for how it was set up. But I think that might be why I also didn't cry in this movie, shockingly, because I am a crier. I cry at everything. And
Mhm.
this movie did not make me cry.
That's okay.
I cried twice, and You've Got Mail.
I don't think I cried in You've Got Mail. I definitely cried in this movie. So that's okay, though. I gave it a 4 out of 5, just a little bit better. So we're pretty much the exact same on everything. Is there anything else that you want to talk about this movie? Anything that I missed, or any other takes that from Sleepless in
No,
Seattle?
last thought that I kind of had, kind of going back to the 2023 recasting. I think that this movie would very easily be remade today.
Okay,
Like,
give it to
even
me.
I was thinking about, I'm like, how could, like, first of all, like the way that like the friendships between Jay and Sam, Becky and Annie, like those would be identical. I don't think like friendship dynamics have changed in 30 years. Like those were
Right.
very on point for me. And I was trying to know what they're like. The radio show isn't much of a thing anymore. Calling into a radio show, calling into NPR or a podcast is. Also, I thought, and that was like, how if we made like a Gen Z version, it would be like Jonah made a TikTok, and then all these women, instead of sending in letters, they start stitching it, and it goes viral
Yeah.
that way. And Annie would be like a BuzzFeed article writer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you can literally copy and paste this movie into 2023, and it still holds up.
Yeah. The only thing, obviously, that doesn't is the flight, air travel. Air travel's changed a little bit, but that has nothing to do with it. I mean, I'm sure there are ways around that.
Well, even
with,
so, like instead of Tom Hanks seeing her at the door, he sees her at like the Uber pickup area.
right.
Like,
But Jonah, the only thing I wonder about is Jonah getting on the plane.
that's fair.
I don't know how to get around that. I'll have to
Just
think about it.
put 3 Jonahs in a trench coat and
That's exactly how it'll happen. But I mean, people don't care. I've seen people probably get away with putting a baby on an airplane before. So
maybe he recruits the babysitter or something. Like he gets Rita
Ooh.
Wilson to like agree with him. Like,
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say, when I gave my rating, I said that this movie's plot is insane. And
totally insane.
but yeah, like it's just insane to think about all the things that happened in this movie for her to give up her life, all those things with Walter, whatever. Like, it's an insane plot, but it works. And
Yeah.
it works because of these performances, the children performances, the friendship performances, Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks separately. I think it works based on the strong writing between of dialogue in this and fantasy,
Mhm.
that romantic comedy fantasy, or that romance fantasy that we all have. So I think it works for those reasons.
I agree.
So maybe you should you should get started on Sleepless in Seattle 2023.
I'll get right on that.
That would be great. Well, I think that ends our discussion for Sleepless in Seattle. I want to thank you, Alyssa, for joining me and for watching this movie for the first time. I really appreciate everything that you did and research that you did and all of the stuff that you brought to the table. I really appreciate it. And you did awesome, as always. And before I let you go and before I end the stream and introduce our next movie and where it is streaming, do you have any movie recommendations of something that you've recently watched that you want to put out into the ether?
I just watched last night Rye Lane.
Mm-hmm.
It is a Hulu original. It is less than an hour and a half, and it's a rom-com. And my initial reaction was to give it 5 stars.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was weird. It was like artsy. It was laughing, crying, like all of it. I loved it. I highly recommend Rye
Okay.
Lane. That was
Rye
the
Lane. And
I did if Steven's still out there, I did see Sex Drive per his request, and it was great. It was very funny.
If he doesn't know, we'll let him know. That's great. But Rye Lane, on your recommendation, I added it to my list, and I'll give it a try and watch it. We'll probably watch it together, maybe.
I will. It's rewatchable.
It's definitely rewatchable. Okay, I love that. All right. Well, again, thank you, Alyssa, for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. And just to give everybody a heads up on next week's movie, we're doing Dennis the Menace, that classic movie with that little kid and Walter Matthau as Mr. Wilson. We'll be watching that next week. It is streaming on Hoopla. Or you can obviously rent it for like $3 anywhere. But if you do have Hoopla, it is on there. If you Hoopla comes with a library card, so you can probably watch it that way. It'll be a very interesting movie to talk about. We might not hit all the categories that we have, but maybe F, Marry, Kill will be interesting for Dennis the Menace. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining me this week. Hopefully you enjoyed Sleepless in Seattle and enjoyed us talking about it. Hopefully we hit on all of the great moments in this movie. And if we didn't, please feel free to share your thoughts with me on any of my social media platforms. You can follow me at CD Waits. That's it, CDWAITS. Follow me there, and we'll see you next week for Dennis the Menace.